It's time to pull up a stool and grab your spot at the bar. The stadiums are dark, the scoreboards are off, and the final whistle has long since blown. But in here, the lights stay on. Welcome to the ETB Lounge on the Empty the Bench Network. This is your official post-game nightcap, where we break down the biggest hits, pour one out for the heartbreaks, and dive into the stories that linger long after the clock hits zero. Whether you're here for sharp analysis or one last round of sports talk with the best fans in the game, you've come to the right place. The games are over, and the conversation is just getting started. All right, my friends, pull up a stool, grab your spot at the bar, and welcome inside the ETB Lounge. As always, I'm Callan, McClurg, and tonight our bar is fully stocked with absolute chaos on this July the 12th, 2026. Sadly, friends, the dream is dead on home soil as the U.S. men's national team has been knocked out of the World Cup, and the postmortem on a massive missed opportunity begins right now. While also in the octagon at UFC 329, Conor McGregor blew out his knee mid-fight, falling to Max Holloway and leaving us wondering if we've officially seen the end of the Notorious. While Major League Baseball has officially entered the All-Star break, forcing front offices today to decide if they're buying, selling, or completely lost at sea. And they'll be doing it without an absolute legend, as Justin Verlander officially announces his intentions to retire, closing the book on a immortal first-ballot Hall of Fame career. Over in the front office, sports franchise valuations have entered orbit with the Seahawks, selling for a mind-boggling $9.6 billion, while the NBA trade market is in an absolute gridlock now as a potential Kawhi Leonard trade to Toronto has been stalled due to an active league-wide investigation involving aspiration. And earlier today in London, the grass courts of Wimbledon crowned their champs as after a weekend of absolute 5-set drama. Of course, folks, as always, it is Callan, McClurg, Nick DiMartino, alongside our panel of David Waitman and Ben Cruz on this Sunday, July 12th, 2026, wrapping up the first half of the baseball season. Nick D, great to see you as always, my friend. Glad that you and Tom held down the bar last Sunday. How's it going today back over in the Tri-Cities or Tri-States area?
It's going pretty good. I mean, the Mets lost a pretty terrible game, but yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there.
Great to hear, as always. David Waitman, our resident stat guru as well from Philadelphia, joining us as well. David, of course, the All-Star Games in your neck of the woods this upcoming week. How's it going today?
It's going as good as it can be now the first half of baseball's over, and now you get some quiet time until, the game's Tuesday, but then the regular season kicks back on Thursday. So, all's good.
And, of course, Ben Cruz joining us from near Boston, Mass. on this evening. Still repping Team USA despite the loss on Monday. Mr. Cruz, great to see you as always. How are we doing tonight? Thanks for being here. Ben, you're on mute, buddy.
Thank you. Sorry, my fault. I was too much in boredom of the Team USA loss we had. I guess.
I mean, yes.
I'm doing well. Obviously, ever since Team USA lost, I've obviously been loving the World Cup stuff. Really good games last night, and obviously looking forward to the games this week. I do have a bone to pick with FIFA in terms of the start times. I don't know.
Yes, a lot of people do.
I don't know why they have those start times throughout the week on a semifinal game, but we could talk about that later on. And socks. That's all I'll say. Socks. Roll.
Oh, man. Of course, folks, getting the ETB Lounge on the air with you here for the next 2 hours until 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock Eastern. As always, folks, we invite you to follow the show and the network across social media, including Twitter, IG, and TikTok, all at the ETB Lounge or at ETB Network. And more importantly, help us get to that 3,000 and 4,000 watch hour goal sooner than later. YouTube.com/ETB Network. Again, go like and subscribe. And more importantly, make sure that you turn on notifications and ring that bell so you do not miss any of our live content or whenever content does get shared to the network, including all of our clips, all of our shorts, you name it. All that is over at youtube.com/ETB Network. And also, more importantly, go and support the ETB audio division by subscribing to Benchmarks and Small Market Edition on your podcast apps as well for audio form storytelling that drops every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time, and also every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time for both Small Market Edition on Fridays and also Benchmarks on Sundays. Coming up, folks, over the course of the program, we'll recap Team USA's loss in the World Cup from this past Monday. We'll also talk about all things Conor McGregor's injury in UFC 329. We'll also talk about everything involving the upcoming baseball All-Star break, where our teams stand at the All-Star break, and also Justin Verlander's retirement announcement made earlier in the week. Where is the Kawhi Leonard trade talks right now involving the aspiration ongoing saga with that, and also the staggering $9.6 billion sale of the NFL's Seattle Seahawks. And we'll also talk about Wimbledon and also try to cover a bit more as we can as well over the course of our program here tonight. So again, go ahead and send in your thoughts, your questions, comments, or concerns in the live chat box via Twitter or via YouTube as well as time goes on here today. With that, guys, we'll jump in, though, and we'll quickly recap the USA Belgium match from last Monday. Again, I know we've had a chance to do so over the course of the week, though, on MTGP or on Press Row or on Cranium. Obviously, Team USA goes out in a very much a dismal fashion. As I said on Cranium on Tuesday, it still feels like it is an abject failure, gentlemen, for how there were so many, I think, I won't even say lofty expectations, but just expectations in general on this team to get beyond the first round or get out of the group stage. But again, they did a lot of great things, though, still. But obviously, and I made this joke, or not a joke, though, but I said this, though, on Tuesday and Wednesday, that I made the comparison in like layman's terms. The U.S. men's national team reminds me too much of watching a fringe top 25 college football, college basketball program who can beat up on on schools that are like in the bottom, the bottom 20 or on the outside looking in. But if they get in, though, to play like a Belgium or a Germany or somebody ranked 1 through 10, good luck beating them. And obviously, I think that the momentum had shifted, though, after the opening goal. Of course, all the sidebar antics, though, of the Trump-Infantino phone call that, of course, happened with the red card ban for Flo Balogun. Ben, I'll start with you, though, for the first one, though. I think, though, with probably, though, Ben, the most pressing question. Will you call this tournament a absolute failure for Team USA, or do they simply hit their realistic ceiling against a global superpower like the Belgium national team last Monday?
I think the way that they kind of lost out was kind of disappointing. I ain't gonna lie. Playing on your home turf, your home soil, especially kind of with the way things were kind of going. And then obviously Balogun obviously got his red card. Obviously, reverse, he obviously got in this game. Belgium obviously was a team I thought was going to be a really tough team. But I thought that, obviously with the way that they were, they played against Bosnia, they would be, one man down and obviously kind of revolve around the guys. I thought, if they were going to come up short, I thought that they were going to really go down without a fight. And I just kind of felt like that, obviously they tied it with the Tillman, goal. And it's like, all right, here we go. Right. And, obviously right after the goal that the Belgians scored about 30 seconds later, it just never felt like, too, that they weren't on the terms of the way that Belgium was playing. And Belgium really just they had a lot of momentum. I think in terms of the U.S. overall play itself, I think they have something that they can build on. But like you mentioned, Callan, they seem like, we've kind of seen the story now, since they've been in the tournament, is where, it's like kind of like Florida State, football, playing, week 1, week 2 against kind of like, schools like, all right, you crushed them. It's like, all right, here you go, be like this great school. And then you get into the mid part of the season and be like, all right, well, that was kind of a reality check. So it's just kind of unfortunate. Pulisic, obviously, that situation too. Him obviously going down once again, but obviously it kind of, didn't really lead much towards the end. And I mean, I really do like this team a lot. I do think that they have made strides, but I think a lot of us Americans expected more. I did think there was a little bit more left in the tank, especially kind of with some of the way that some of these teams kind of finished off. And, I watched that game against Spain. I just thought to myself, like, maybe they could have beaten them, probably not. But if they did, who knows, right? So it obviously ended on a sour note. but I do think that the guys really loved each other despite the way that it ended. I just think that was definitely kind of a tough way to end it. And obviously the third goal that Belgium scored was super deflating. So,
David, I think Ben's right that it felt like a sour note about how the team exited. You know, they had played so well in Seattle, though historically they were 7-0 in games that were played in Seattle at Lumen Field or whatever it's been called over the course, of the, history of that new stadium that opened up in 2002 for the Seahawks and for the Sounders. But I think, though, David, that even with how they went out, though, I said, though, again on Tuesday that, I felt like it was a failure because I think we all, a lot of people said quarterfinals are bust. But I think, though, that you still, though, made progress in a way of you won a group for the third time ever. You finally won a knockout game for the first time since you beat Mexico in 2002, Dos Acero 2-0 over in South Korea in 2002. And that you had, production from almost everybody. I think you set a record for most goals in a World Cup cycle, poached past every manager with his third and fourth win over the course of the tournament after they had knocked out Bosnia and Herzegovina. But obviously, though, David, the issue again, involving, the red card being rescinded and the, political, intervention being done. And I think, though, that Nick Morrison, though, David says it right here, regardless, though, fellas, of the Balogun red card situation, it would have been tough for Team USA to beat Belgium. They have not beat them, I think, guys, since the 1930 World Cup when the tournament first launched 96 years ago. So, I mean, that just really shows you, the disparity between Team USA and Belgium. But, David, I guess your overall thoughts on the game, though, but also the outlook of Team USA and how they went down in flames on Monday.
Don't think overall was a failure, but I never seen a team shoot themselves in the foot more than they did. Everything from the goalie doing that moved it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what he was thinking. They cost him a goal and just seemed like they just all decided to one game, let's go flat. And they had a little spur when they tied it on that direct kick goal that was a deflection. The thing now, I guess I look at more than anything else is how did they build on this or respond to this? And it seems like a lot of the issues, it seems like it's off the field with development and I guess trying to get that program going. I mean, I've heard different things with building up the program. I mean, Landon Donovan talked about it. Czars have talked about it. And that's where you need to figure out where's the problem and how do we fix this part of it. I was going to say the next big thing I'll be curious to see 2 years is the LA Olympics. And there's going to be guys there that you're going to look at and say, oh, well, he could be on the team, whether it's like one game to keep an eye on, and it's probably 2 years, but he'll be like maybe a teenager or later to be 20, is Kevin Sullivan, plays for Philadelphia.
Correct.
He's going to be going to Man City here in the next year or two. So they just got to build off this and just figure out where the problems are in terms of the whole USA soccer thing. I even if, like you said, if they would have pulled off a miracle and being Belgium, I personally don't think they would have had a chance in some of these other ones. Spain, France, England. We can talk about that one. Norway with the what stuff that happened there or that game, but Argentina, they're here and they will. It's just not. It's not the American pastime. These other countries, it is. Ours is, it's baseball, football, soccer is like number 5 or 6, depending on who you talk to, like in terms of like interest in this country. It really is. Our ones, this is live or die. I mean, look at England when they beat Norway. That country was just, they lost their minds over there. If they win the whole thing, they haven't won, in 60 years?
It's coming home, laddie. It's coming home.
I really quickly, and I don't want to cut you off, David, but you made some really good points. And I don't want to jump ahead too much, but you guys obviously were talking about the talent that we have, right? You look at the 4 teams that are going to be in the semifinal, leading obviously up to the final. Spain. Not Spain. France, Argentina, England,
Spain.
Spain. Yeah, right. Sorry, Spain as well. Yes. Every team specifically around them obviously have just a big time player, right? And obviously, I think for us, like we have some guys, right? But in terms of complete game changer, I think Balogun will be one. He's extremely young. Pulisic, obviously, he's pretty much said it. He does not want to be the guy anymore, but obviously we're relying on him fully. So I think, like you mentioned, whether it's a guy like Sullivan or we need to kind of get that next big time striker with Balogun. So I think really elevate to compete against better countries, that obviously have played, with a lot of experience in the past.
By the way, just real quick, and then we'll go to somebody else's. Regarding Pulisic, whatever his last name, I can't say. Someone can't say his last name right. He's the guy who doesn't want to be in the spotlight. He wants to be on the team, but he wants to be a supporter. He doesn't want to be. And I say this, it's not like he doesn't want to be Messi. He doesn't want to be. I'm just saying,
Callan.
Right. Mbappe. He doesn't want to be Erling. Right. He doesn't want to be any of them. He wants to be in the background, be number 2 or number 3, but not be number 1.
Yeah,
the pressure gets to him.
Yeah.
Also, Nick Morganson writes that, fellas, I think that the true discussion needs to be had is the major issues with VAR, as we have had multiple calls not determined correctly. That's including the Balogun red that could have gone to the Messi no call with him stepping on the calf of the Algerian player during the group stage. Or even now, guys, what they're calling the cable of God, that the goal kick yesterday for the Norwegian goalkeeper hits the Skycam camera's cable over the field at New York, New Jersey Stadium and leads to England coming down the field and scoring the tying goal, with there being protests by the Norwegian side, obviously, which, again, rightfully so, though, because that should have been, ruled a drop ball or what have you, and that, of course, was botched as well. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, and the best responses from FIFA, they doubled down, says, well, we might actually expand it more with replay and everything else with VAR. That's the thing. It's just like, we'll just push it aside. I mean, FIFA's such a mess to begin with anyway, but yeah, they just, I don't know what else they'll probably come up with something like, we'll color code the wires. We know if the ball hits it, then it's like, we don't know.
I still want the goal line technology that they were talking about, where they have the chip in the ball, where if the ball crosses the goal line, it moves like a goal line, like in hockey, for example, or triggers something that can tell the referee that the ball was in all the way over for a goal and wasn't taken off the line or
but
like
they can review that the same way they review offsides, right?
The offside technology, I think, has gotten a little bit better, and I have liked when they have had to talk about an offside play, they have that 3 exactly. It's almost like getting Hawkeye in tennis.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, which I think they kind of, I don't know if it's really called Hawkeye, but they have a similar technology where they, I don't know, and I'm sure you've seen it though, DMart, where they've got this very weird 3D model basically, where they will show where the line is, where they're offside, and even if someone's pinky toes over the line, it's ruled an offside play, which I know is a little weird because the real ruling is that you cannot be anywhere behind the last defender by yourself to go and get a scoring chance, and it's the ruling is just very much cut and dry, kind of in the middle. David, you're going to say something real quick?
I was going to say real quick, Nick, I think in the Premier League, they do have the goal line technology with the goal with the ball crossing over it.
Yeah.
So
really?
Yeah. They've had that before, and because it hits, it comes back out, and they'll show it, and it's already there. So they do have it.
Yeah, mercifully they have it there, and it's still trying to work its way across the ocean. But I do know when I have to hear a good comparison to put certain things into layman's terms, I go to Nick DiMartino, because, Nick, I think, though, that my comparison about this national team is I think, right down your alley. This is a very good.
It sounds like it was geared towards me. It does.
And I say it only because I say this only because this, I think, though, is right, though. This is a national team, DMart, that to me feels like they're number 25 in college football or college basketball. They might be able to hang with the team who's ranked 1 through 10, like a Belgium national team is, but they will probably never, but they're not going to win, in layman's cases, though. But I think, though, Nick, if you saw the game on Monday, if you have any thoughts, go ahead and fire away. But just maybe as well, though, overall thoughts on watching this team play during a home World Cup for the first time in 32 years.
Well, I wouldn't say it's either a failure or they reached their ceiling. I kind of think it's somewhere in the middle. It's not like they lost in the group stage or anything like that. That would be a failure. But I wouldn't say they reached their ceiling either. They could have easily beaten Belgium. They were very lucky that the red card was overturned, and Team USA were slight favorites to beat Belgium. So I wouldn't say they reached their ceiling. Belgium was not an unbeatable team. They didn't lose to Spain or France. So I would say it's somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't say it's a total failure. And I wouldn't say they reached their ceiling. It was a little bit of a disappointment, but not a failure, especially the way they lost. It's not like they lost in penalty kicks. They totally didn't show up, right? Including our best, or supposedly our best player didn't show up. So whenever you look at those circumstances, the team is favored. Your best player doesn't show up. The team looked horrible. I mean, there's no way in any sport that's not a disappointment. So given the full context, I think it's a little bit of a disappointment.
Mhm.
I would say your analogy to a college football team. What exactly did you say again? It was
USA's like top 25, but like in the bottom part of a top 25 for football or basketball. Like they can beat, like they can beat certain teams. Like they can beat a Paraguay or an Australia.
Yeah.
But you put them against like, I don't know, you put them against Belgium or Brazil or
France.
Argentina, Germany or France. You probably know what's going to be happening at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, except that's a good analogy. It's a good analogy. My analogy would be they would be a team kind of like I would almost compare them to a team like Boise State when they're really good some years. Like Boise State can be really good some years. They don't play that tough of a schedule. You don't think of them as a typical powerhouse. They can hang with a lot of teams, but realistically, they're not going to win it all. That would be my comparison with Team USA.
Fair. I like that actually.
So that I think that would be a fair. I think that's a fair comparison with Team USA. So, but in terms of disappointment, not a disappointment. I mean, on some level, it's like it's hard to say it's not a little bit of a disappointment. We didn't lose to Spain, we didn't lose to France or England.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing too, and Nick was making up a good point. The thing about the World Cup is like even the good teams are not like the greatest of teams. Like it's a tournament, and obviously they of course played a lot of games beforehand, which more times than not they played pretty solid ball. So I think our expectations, against kind of the top type of teams, we were kind of still expecting that still compared to what we were having like the earlier rounds, and it's kind of like we got beat, and it kind of happens that way. You don't play your best game, you move on, you go home, and the head coach after the game basically said, we just didn't play well in all facets, and it's going to happen. And so, I'm very curious, Callan, though, to see though, like what of course we talked about in terms of the futures, like, but what happens to a guy like Pulisic? Obviously you have McKinney and Adams, kind of as your guys, and Balogun, of course, but what happens to the head coach, right? And because of course the head coach just he obviously got the wins record, this season. I do think he deserves it to go another run in another 4 years. But we'll have to see what happens.
And you know what, Ben, you actually read my mind. That was going to be the next thing I was going to bring up, though, was I mentioned this on Tuesday about how, like, almost not panic, but like it feels like you've got to keep Mauricio Pochettino around as the head coach, because I made a lot of, claims on, well, not claims, but a lot of points on Tuesday that this really feels like the first true coach who's really bought into coaching this team. This isn't a Bruce Arena-led team or a Jurgen Klinsmann side or a Bob Bradley team or what have you. And that's something just seemed to like resonate with me watching this team play through Poach over the course of time. And I said, like, how often can this particular team, forget the women's team, of course, who's won 4 World Cups, but that this particular side, though, on the men's side, it's always about the manager, and that you have to sack the manager every time that you don't go deep. That this legitimately felt like this was the first real legitimate coach that I think came in and really bought into the American system, though, with what he had at his disposal. David, I'll go to you first about this, though. Your thoughts on maybe Poach's future, though, with Team USA. Do you re-sign the guy, or do you let him walk and let him go somewhere else?
I think you just got to ask him, what do you want to do? And put all the chip, or put all the thing, not pressure, but just put everything on him. If he says, like, and it might be one of those things where right now he's like, I don't know. I know he's coaching overseas again. I know he's back overseas of coaching like one of the club teams, whatever it is. I thought maybe it was like an Italy. I forget. But if he comes back, I would say, I would say let him. You give him like the opportunity. If he says no, then you got to be quick on it and figure you have a backup plan, B or C. Who are we bringing in as coach, and go from there. I can say it's an interesting thing. I'd love to see him come back. Thing is, does he want to come back?
I mean, I think he had a $6 million contract for this cycle when it came to the World Cup with where things stood, though. And that was one of my thoughts on Tuesday, was that, kind of having to, maybe keep the band together, obviously. I also, though, fellas, wonder, though, aloud, though, and I've actually heard this, though, a little bit. We'll talk a bit about Christian Pulisic here in a second regarding the media treatment of him over the past couple of days after the exit of Team USA on Monday. But guys, I was also wondering aloud a little bit, talking about Pulisic and talking about a few things though too regarding this. That actually we'll get to that right now. Ben, I'll go to you first on this one. And obviously, this all happened in wake of the very weird post-game interview with Christian Pulisic after the fact of Team USA losing on Monday, and how he was subbed off again, though, with some kind of an injury. I thought it was maybe the calf flaring up again from that first game that they played with Paraguay, that he missed the second game against Australia and what have you over the course of the last couple of days with it. But also, though, Ben, the massive backlash, though, and mainly, though, from his own peers, though, Ben, involving Carly Lloyd, Sidney Leroux, and Landon Donovan, who all in a way said, dude, you took this much time off from the Gold Cup recently and from Milan to get ready for the World Cup. And kind of like what Nick D said, though, was like you kind of showed up and didn't do a whole lot over the course of this tournament in some capacity. And you broke a 7-month, goal drought back in a tune-up game with Senegal before the tournament began, though. So, Ben, is the criticism towards Christian Pulisic from the media, mainly these three American superstars of Leroux, Lloyd, and Donovan, is this fair criticism of the U.S. men's national team and mainly of their star player for what happened on Monday?
Absolutely. I thought that he was I don't want to really quickly say it, but I thought he was a liability out there. I mean, he lost 11 balls, in terms of turnovers, like turnover-worthy type plays. He plays a lot on the outside. That's kind of where AK excels at most. And he's supposed to really be kind of the next guy. And like David mentioned, he doesn't want to be in the spotlight. And you have guys here like Carly Lloyd and Donovan and all these people that are star-worthy type of players that we've had in the past that will do everything they want possible to have us go, deep and want to try to win this thing. And I just with the way that he was kind of saying it, it's like, how much personally does he want to have this for this country and playing? And I think he wants to do it, but it's like it comes down to like the comments that he made. It's almost like, well, like, I can kind of go home now and kind of rest up and stuff. It's like, bro, like, how much did you really even do out there? So it's like you could have just been at home while they're just being on a soccer field watching the team if you wanted just going to be kind of playing like that. As Sidney Leroux actually quotes it, fair enough, because he said, now I get time to rest, so I'll be okay. And Sidney Leroux said, quote tweeted, he rested the entire World Cup. He had no goals, right, at all.
Yeah, no goals. He had a couple of assists though, and that was about it.
Yeah, so between injury, I mean, granted, yeah, if he's out injuries, of course, that obviously sucks. He seemed like he had some of his legs when he came in during the I think it was the game at the Turkey game. I thought he actually played decently in that Turkey game. That was kind of at the end. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just been kind of like something with him that it just hasn't been the first rodeo where it's just kind of like he just doesn't really kind of show up when we need him. In the bigger time of games. So yes, of course, I do think this is very the criticism is definitely justified.
Guys, we got a quick developing story here we're going to get to. That this came from Nick Morgeson in the Lounge Slack channel from famed college sports writer Dan Wetzel. But gentlemen, we can report now within the last couple of hours that Michigan's independent investigation into the culture of its athletic department is set to become public information on Thursday, and a decision regarding the future of Ward Manual is expected in the coming days, per Pete Thamel and Dan Wetzel. Per Dan's Twitter thread, the investigation by the Chicago law firm of Jenner and Block was commissioned after the December firing and the arrest of head football coach Sharon Moore, and has cost the school $11 million. And it was tasked with looking into all facets of the scandal-plagued U of M athletic department. Manuel, a former defensive tackle for the Wolverines, has led his alma mater since 2016. The Wolverines have won national titles in men's basketball and football, but also been embroiled, though, in numerous NCAA cases and controversies, including the hamburger scandal involving Jim Harbaugh 6 years ago. The Board of Regents is scheduled to meet Thursday, where the future of the athletic department is set to be a discussion item come Thursday. Nick D., your early reaction to the story.
So we don't know. So it's expected to be released on Tuesday.
Thursday.
Sorry, I get my T days mixed up. So my first reaction is I'd rather just see the results rather than see it a bunch of tweets that say this is going to be released on this day, so brace yourself. I'd rather just see what they find. Also, the investigation sounds kind of vague. So they investigated into the culture of its athletic department. But like, well, what exactly does that mean? What are you investigating? You're investigating a certain culture.
I'm assuming it. Well, I'm assuming it's the Sharon Moore thing that obviously that got very out of control. I would also assume it'd be part of the sign stealing scandal with Connor Stallions. I know that they kind of put that to bed. Maybe the conduct of Harbaugh with the recruiting violation with the cheeseburger lunch order that happened during the COVID dead period. So, I mean, there's a few things that come to mind, though. But other than that, I'm like you. I'd rather see this happen via the actual announcement and not just through Twitter threads.
I also think that those are kind of different things. Like, I don't think that what happened with Sharon Moore was exactly a reflection of the culture of Michigan football or Michigan athletics. I think it had more to do with him individually.
Personal conduct.
Right. It was his own conduct. It doesn't sound like all the coaches on the staff were banging subordinates the whole time. Like, I don't think like, just because he did it individually doesn't mean it has to do with the culture. I mean, if you want to talk about sign stealing and things like that I think is a little different because that usually is a culture issue. Yeah. But Sharon Moore is an individual. I don't really know what exactly that says about the culture at Michigan.
Let's see. Nick says real quick that Michigan doesn't have the best reputation head coaching wise regarding Harbaugh recently. Makes sense they're being investigated. I mean, yeah. I mean, I would probably think so just for like, you know, I mean, just with where college athletics has gone over the past couple of, you know, years, whatnot with the NIL stuff. And obviously, you know, the Harbaugh thing became a major issue. He got a show cause penalty for that, which I think was a 10-year ban from him coaching college football at any university or what have you. So, I mean, I kind of get, though, like Thamel's thoughts about, hey, they've won a couple of natties, but kind of like under very weird circumstances. But I still don't. I think that they have to, like you said, though, Nick, they have to probably, you know, layer out what exactly are they talking about here away from the Sharon Moore case. There's got to be more than a story.
Yeah, I mean, I also don't know, like, what exactly are they going to find? I mean, like, we all know what Sharon Moore did, and he's not there anymore.
We know about Stallions, and we know about what Harbaugh did.
Yeah, so, like, we know all about that stuff. Like, did they find something new? If they didn't find something new, then I'm just not – right, like, if they didn't find something new, then I'm just, like, not that interested in what they have to say. Like, I don't know what it's supposed to say. Were they investigating more the Sharon Moore side of things or, like, the sign-stealing side?
At least what Thamel is saying is that it appears to be mainly about the Sharon Moore thing, or at least the investigation was commenced or commissioned after the firing of Moore, and then when he got arrested back in December, which is, again, per Dan Wetzel, it's cost Michigan $11 million with this whole entire ordeal.
Well, my question about Sharon Moore, though, is what more are they investigating? I mean, what more is there to investigate?
Yeah, like, just some background that Moore got in trouble for stuff on campus, so it does include the school, including texting women at halftime of games, which I think there's a note zero
women, right? About, like of age women.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, because I saw he was. I saw, like, after the scandal came out, there was a girl that posted like a picture on her Instagram story, her and the Stairmaster, and Sharon Moore replied with a fire emoji, and this was like during the game or right before a game.
Yeah, I remember that becoming public knowledge. David, any thoughts here? Obviously, you know, you and I have been, you know, around college athletics for a long time. You know, we're not immune to this. You know, I just so I can be, you know, clear. I've had a couple things happen at the school I've worked at with men's basketball and football having a very bad hazing scandal that broke out a couple of years ago. So I've kind of seen a few things in my time. But David, overall thoughts on this Michigan investigation finally coming public knowledge come Thursday per Pete Thamel and Dan Wetzel?
I think Nick said it best. Nothing's going to happen. It's just going to be, he did this, he did that. By the way, I love that he was texting women during the games. I love to know what game it was. Was it like
it's at least
Northwestern, you know, conference game, whatever, or was it like Eastern Michigan first game? It's like, okay, it's 41-0. Oh, okay, give me your phone. Yeah, I start I mean, texting during halftime. That's what I said. That guy's a true player, although he got himself into trouble over the whole thing. It's like it'll be that, and then nothing will happen, and it'll sweep it under the rug. Okay, let's go back to football. I mean, unless they're going to do like major, I mean, what can they do to get? What are they going to do? Like take away like NIL money from?
I was going to say
things?
NIL sanctions, scholarship sanctions, vacate wins, vacate the Natty in 2020 three when they won it with Harbaugh.
Yeah, none of that stuff will happen. It'll just be okay. It's this. Somebody will get banned. Like he can't do this again, and it'll just move along. It's college athletics. They'll keep the wheel moving. I just love the stuff that he did. Some of that stuff I didn't know about. Texting women at halftime. That's a move.
Ben, any thoughts about the arch rivals up north?
I mean, I'm an Ohio State fan, so I'm just loving just the overall chaos going on with this.
Give me all the chaos, baby.
Like variable, man, Nick, come on, man, come on.
Hey, at least Michigan won a championship recently.
I know.
If Rossini starts wearing Michigan gear, there's going to be some.
And as far as I know, Mike Vrabel wasn't doing anything on the sidelines during or right before the games. He was at least focused. He wasn't responding to Diana Rossini's Instagram stories with fire emojis.
He was
as far as I know.
Yeah, he was focused all right. There's really nothing that they can do about this at all. I mean, they're gonna come together on Thursday. They're like David mentioned, he texting a woman during a blowout of a game against a subdivision 1 school. It's like, all right, man, like you do you. That's we'll see what happens. But I'm not really expecting much of complete.
Nick, you might remember this more than me. When Texas, or I think it was Georgia, Florida State played that very much. I call it the sore loser bowl when Florida State didn't make the CFP during the COVID year. Yeah. And I think Georgia beat the crap out of them 63-0. But I think I saw that there were Georgia players on their phone recording video of them or on Twitter during the game because it was such a blowout, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember that, but that sounds like something.
I'm going to check right now. I'm kind of curious about that.
That does sound familiar.
I mean, the game was that much of a snore fest that they were on their on Twitter or on social media or on TikTok or something.
I could be wrong with this too. I could have sworn during that game at the end too, they were so hard. They were getting food from the sidelines. It was almost like they were getting from they were bringing it to. They were eating on the sidelines. So the game was such a.
That may have happened too. Actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
College athletics can be very wacky sometimes, folks. Ben, have you any luck yet digging up that story?
I'm just looking at COVID attendance stuff. Ten rooms are half capacity. I feel like I'm back in the.
I know, right?
Yeah, a different time period. Man, I hated that stuff. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I'll try to maybe throughout the show if I try to see it, I'll let you know. But
so apparently a Georgia defensive lineman trolled FSU on IG Live during the blowout per yardbarker.com.
Yardbarker.
So apparently they were live on IG during this blowout game of the Seminoles at Hard Rock Stadium.
I mean, look, I like that better than Georgia players getting behind the wheel and killing people, which is usually what they do. So
I did, by the way, check the thing out. So they beat Florida State 63-3, and they were eating chicken wings on the sideline. And then this gets better. When they won the national championship in 23, they were eating food on the sidelines when they blew out TCU.
Oh, my goodness.
No.
Who the hell's catering the sidelines, man? Chick-fil-A?
That was a really bad national championship game, TCU, Georgia. Yeah. It was so bad I fell asleep during it, I think.
By the way, if you're seeing who's giving them all that food, the SEC was. You're helping us win? Have this. The players were hungry.
Chick-fil-A, and really quick, I don't want to completely go off the topic, but D-Mark, did you happen to see it? I put it on my IG throughout the Knicks parade of the it was a viral video of the DoorDash guys putting Chick-fil-A to a specific guy. That was complete the whole part of the parade. It's viral. You have to see it.
I don't remember that. But during the parade?
It was during the parade. A DoorDash guy was going through crowds of people in the city to give it to a specific guy.
I saw that happen too when Norway had all their fans doing the road chant in Times Square, and it was a DoorDasher on a bicycle who couldn't get through the crowd.
Yeah, it was the same thing for the Knicks parade. I saw it. It was so funny.
Woo. By the way, I wanted to confirm that. So Nick Morganson just sent this to us. Georgia defensive lineman Warren Brinson pulled out his phone while on the sideline in the final moments or minutes of a 63-3 blowout against FSU in the Orange Bowl. The Bulldogs were dominating, and Brinson used the massive lead to check in with fans on social media. The video became a major talking point on Twitter and other platforms because it's incredibly rare for a player to go live on social media in the middle of a major college football bowl game. But then again, you're up by 60. What more are you going to do?
I felt like back then, I'm going to say real quick, I felt like that Georgia team back then, a couple years, they were kind of like the Wild West. You had all that going on. And then when they came home, they all had, not all, some of the players had issues with driving.
Yeah, as DiMart said.
They still do. Like, for some reason, Georgia uniquely has an issue with players that are just get in trouble for reckless driving. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's a Georgia issue in particular.
Maybe they have to go back to having driver's ed classes on campus down there in Athens, eh?
I was just down there, down in Georgia last year. I think their speed limits are like on the highway. I think it's 80, 85.
Well, these guys are blowing way past it.
No, I know.
Yeah, they're like what, like maybe like 110, 120.
They're going like 20 over, like the actual like.
Some of them were near no campus. That was the whole thing with Jalen Carter and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody was killed that way, because they were like 30, 35, but they were doing 60 plus. Yeah, there was a whole thing about that. Jalen Carter was in that. He was in a mess for that for a while. That came up for his stock. I mean, with his NFL draft stock at one point.
He was still drafted very high.
Oh, he was, but still, it was just like, and then he didn't want to talk about it afterwards. He's just like, which I get, but even like Kirby Smart was just like, I'm not there when it comes to driving. I yelled him to like knock it off with the speed. I mean, he can't be there, so he's going to do so much.
No, but it is a little weird that it seems to happen to him so much more than everybody else.
Every year, yes.
Every year, there's always.
But again, Urban Meyer has a reputation for his players getting in trouble for things a little worse than that. So,
right.
You see a lot of it. You see a lot of it in college sports. Just
yes, you do.
A lot of players in major programs getting in trouble with the law.
Yeah. So again, folks, that developing story again from Dan Wetzel Dan Wetzel and Pete Thamel again. Michigan's independent investigation into their athletic department will in fact be made public information on Thursday. Also, guys, Frank Vogel is back in the NBA coaching ranks, joining the Warriors as the associate head coach on Steve Kerr's staff. David, Frank Vogel, he's been kind of passed around a lot. Obviously, won a ring with the Lakers in the bubble in 2020, but then bounced around between, Phoenix and other places. Thoughts on this hire made by Steve Kerr to bring Vogel on as the associate head coach up in San Francisco?
It's a veteran move. You get a veteran coach. I don't know what his role is going to be, but yeah, he's bounced around. With Indiana, I forget what with the Lakers, Chicago, right? He's
Lakers,
bounced around.
Suns.
Maybe he knows courage. Just you fit in. Like you said, you just go along for the ride and whatever it is. I don't know if it's quality control or would you do it for an assist. They had Mike Brown there too, so it's just may take Mike Brown's spot in terms of whatever he did there.
Yeah, Nick D, any thoughts on this? Obviously, Frank Vogel again, I think made a name for himself with the Pacers, then kind of, I think, got that ring finally, despite the bubble circumstances with the Lakers in 20. Then went to Phoenix, though, had no success there. They got blown out very early, with a very hefty contract by the Suns. Now finds his way back into the coaching ranks, though, as a associate head coach, though, with Steve Kerr. Any thoughts?
What exactly is an associate head coach?
Essentially, and this is actually, and I think, Nick, this is, commonplace in college basketball. You're kind of like the de facto coach in waiting if something happens, usually.
Okay. Yeah, because I hear associate because I know
honestly, it's like a fancier name for a assistant coach, basically, is what it is.
Well, part of me thinks so. That says a lot, I would say, because Steve Kerr is not going to be there forever. We don't know how long he's going to stay. He's probably going to retire whenever Steph retires.
2 more years.
Right. Yeah, I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm just saying. So if he's the next guy up, I think that is a very good decision. That's a smart decision by Golden State. The other thing you have to point out is you talked about the bubble ring, the ring that he won in 2020 with the Lakers.
Correct.
Is it possible that this makes it more likely that LeBron would want to go to Golden State?
Good point.
I think that's a legitimate question. I don't know what kind of relationship LeBron has with Frank Vogel, but the Golden State is one of the top destinations for LeBron. and bringing in his former head coach when he won his last title might make it more likely that he'd want to go there. I don't know. But part of me thinks that maybe that's part of the reason they hired him.
I like this comparison from Nick Morganson. Frank Vogel reminds me a lot of Robert Ory, where he plugs in well wherever he goes and fights hard to win games. David, any thoughts on that?
No, actually, I just saw what Vogel's job will be. He will be to spearhead the defensive game planning.
Can they ever give job descriptions in plain English?
No.
I guess trying to figure out the defensive. I guess where
defensive coordinator.
Yeah, basically. So if you're playing on the start Oklahoma City, it's okay, who's guarding SGA,
okay,
who's guarding Holmgren, that type of thing. Yeah, that's what it is. But I basically with LeBron, I can't figure him out. I mean, just like.
Can anybody figure out LeBron?
That means he's doing something right because he doesn't want people to figure him out. He wants that.
Yeah, Bill Simmons had an interesting thought. He went by where does he want to play in terms of golf courses? Because he said he said last year he has picked up golf a ton.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's better than Sir Charles too on the golf course.
Well, look, all wealthy people or most wealthy people end up taking up golf.
Yeah, I mean he's played a. So that's why I said, do you look at Miami, though, as number one? I would have thought, because that's the thing about him real brief, is you notice James Harden has to sign his new contract. Draymond Green hasn't signed his new contract because they're all waiting for him. And then, as I said, so as soon as his shoe drops, then everybody else will sign whoever's out there remaining. But I thought when that happened, I thought he was going to go to Golden State. Lives near home.
Sorry.
Lives near home. All of his boys are there. Vets, the whole thing. You do 2 years, and then you all go out together.
I don't buy – I agree. I don't buy the Cavs part of it because he already had his heroic moment with the Cavs. I don't really think he wants to pull a Jerry Rice, which is what he did, and end up retiring with his original team with the Cavs. Chris Johnson did that too, I think, with the Titans. I don't really think LeBron has that desire. I think it's more likely that he wants to play with Steph than it is that he wants to go to Cleveland. And also, from the way this Cleveland team is currently structured, I don't necessarily think it currently makes a lot of sense for LeBron. I just don't. It would
disrupt kind of what they got going right now, and it's been. Yeah.
I think you can plug LeBron into a lot of situations, but some situations fit him better just in terms of basketball, and I don't think Cleveland is really the best fit with Donovan Mitchell and James Harden in the backcourt. I think Miami would at least make more sense. Now I know people are going to say it's a depleted roster. I get all that, but even with that depleted roster, they're still probably a top 6 team, and he also fits in a little better, I think, with Giannis and Bam Adebayo than he does in Cleveland with Mitchell and Harden. Yeah. So, but I think the biggest thing with LeBron is I think his biggest thing is convenience. And I could see him going to Philly. It makes some sense to me, but I don't think he wants to play in Philly. I don't really think he wants to go to the Northeast. I think he wants, if any, Golden State is close to LA, which is where his family is. He can fly back and forth pretty frequently if he wants.
Yes, that's right.
And Miami is a great place to live if you're a celebrity like LeBron. And like you said, in terms of golf courses, he'd probably love Miami. So that's where I think his head is at, but I don't really know because he kind of is hiding a lot.
Nick, let me add one thing to your thoughts about Miami, or maybe two, but one thing for sure: there's no state income tax charges when you live in Florida.
It's true.
Yeah, that's part of it. The other thing I always think of too is December, January, February, wintertime. Cleveland, you're not playing golf. Philadelphia, you're not playing golf. Miami, you're playing golf. And you got plenty of courses down there. And like you say, fits in with Bam and Giannis. And there's a couple other good players on that team. I think they would move up quickly if he signs there. But he doesn't say
so. The Warriors get a little bit older with LeBron. The Sixers become an instant title favorite. Miami's roster still depleted, which I think, though, Morganson went to the point you had to correct me about on Tuesday. Has LeBron and Riley buried the hatchet of how they kind of had that feud at one point down in Miami, which might be the only sticking point if you ask me, but I don't really know much.
Regarding the thing with Nick, he says Golden State, you look at that whole team, they got 2 years left of this crew.
Yeah.
So it's win or else. I mean, really, you think about it, and they'll all go together. LeBron will go, Curry will go, Draymond will go. If Jimmy's still there, unless they trade him, he'll be gone. Kerr's gone. So and then they'll have to rebuild. And they still got some other good players out in Golden State too.
Yeah, I mean, Podziemski's got upside. Yeah, I mean, they have Quentin Post, I agree. And then, real quick, by the way, LeBron and Riley have a massive feud. He may not or is not going to go there. I mean, if they can maybe patch up that damage, who knows? Go ahead, DiMart.
Well, I was going to talking about Golden State. I think Golden State actually are legit title contenders if they get LeBron. In fact, I would say that's the only way they're going to be title contenders. They were a bubble team. They were a bubble team last year. They made it to the play-in, but got knocked out and didn't make the playoffs. But keep in mind, Steph Curry only played half a year. He only played like 41 games, I think. Yeah. So if Steph is at least healthy, and on top of that, you have LeBron, I mean, Golden State is, not the favorite to win it all or to come out of the West, but one of the favorites. And the other thing is that I think Golden State would be a lot more flexible than a lot of other options for LeBron's needs. So he's going to miss a lot of games. He's going to want to fly to LA. And I think Golden State would be a little bit more flexible to his needs and be a lot more okay with it than some other teams. I don't know if, the Sixers would be as okay with LeBron flying to LA and missing a lot of regular season games as opposed to Golden State.
That wouldn't happen.
Yeah. So I don't know how that, I just think it's a little, I think Golden State would be a little more accepting of that than most other teams. And I did say that the East in some ways is a better, it sounds contradictory, but the way the East is structured in a lot of ways is better for LeBron than the West, because it matters less if you miss a bunch of games. But some franchises, I think, would be more accepting of it than others.
It's got to be both. Especially if LeBron's going to be having a camera crew following him for the entire season about, this might be the last year. Like, who really knows?
I think it's a combination of. I think it's a little bit of a combination. I don't think it's as simple as he wants to go to the place where he has the best shot at winning, or it's the place that's most convenient. I think it's something in the middle. No matter what team he goes to, you're probably, by just any basic probability, not going to win a title. But the team none of us talked about yet was Denver. Denver would be a really good fit for LeBron. They're a 50-plus win team without him. If he misses a bunch of regular season games, which he inevitably will, it probably doesn't matter as much.
Especially with him not playing back-to-backs usually.
Right, and he also would make the team substantially better. I think Denver's a good fit. I don't know what he's thinking. It's also pretty far out west, not a terrible plane ride to get to LA from there. Not like Golden State is, but I think Denver would also make a lot of sense.
So we'll keep an eye on where LeBron does go, and more about the NBA here in just a few minutes. Go ahead, Ben. What do you got?
Philly, can I just say something? With Philly,
yeah, go ahead.
One thing that would concern me with Philly is Jaylen Brown is now on the 76ers. Maybe he potentially would have a little bit of an issue with Embiid and LeBron both missing a bunch of games during the regular season. Look, Jaylen Brown was often unhappy in Boston, which is a much better run franchise than the Sixers. Maybe he'd have a little bit of an issue with his two best players in his supporting cast, be it taking off a whole bunch of regular season games. I could see that potentially being an issue. And the Northeast, in a lot of ways, seems like, just on a personal level, the least convenient, the least attractive place for LeBron to play. The middle of January, February, like David said, you can't go on the golf course or anything like that. It's not the most fun place to live in the winter.
Yeah, and that's, kind of like par for the course. But again, we'll keep an eye on what's going on, though, with the NBA. With that, guys, well, quickly, before we get to the top of the hour here, kind of recap the very much dismal ending for UFC 329 on Saturday from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. For the first time in 5 years, Conor McGregor steps back into an octagon after 5 years away from July of 21 till July of this year. but sadly was injured during his pre-match walkout to the ring by jarring his knee, which led to 3 different slippages in the cage against Max Holloway, who kept looking at referee Mike Belch trying to stop the fight, though then inevitably the fight was stopped at just over a minute plus into the opening round, and saw Holloway win the match via a technical knockout due to the injury sustained by McGregor. Nick, we won't spend too much time on this because we're against the clock here, but obviously, a lot of people, though, DiMart, obviously tuned in to watch McGregor, try to come back after 5 years away. And I always say this, though, everybody, that even though I don't watch a lot of combat sports, but I know damn well, following a lot of them, though, locally in town here, about how the regimen is, though, about, you train every day, 3 to 4, 2 to 3 times, a day, whatnot, but also that when you spend so much time away from the ring or from the cage, ring rust becomes a thing where you're not as sharp as you once were and what have you. So, Nick, obviously, the ending is very weird because of how the injury played out. I went back and rewatched the replay on Paramount Plus. Like, it looked like he hurt himself, stepping, getting out of the, out of his shoes into the cage. Then he slips 3 different times, though, in the course of the fight. And I felt bad for Max Holloway, who's looking at the referee like, are you going to call the fight? Because he keeps on slipping. Then inevitably, the way that McGregor reacted, though, to the loss, obviously, was, hands on top of the cage. Obviously, the crowd bolted out very quickly from T-Mobile. But, Nick, with this loss, though, by McGregor and the continued time that he takes away from the cage, is it finally time for McGregor to finally hang it up and retire? Your thoughts?
I mean, I think it probably is time for him to retire. It doesn't mean he will. Fighters are, pretty tenacious people. They fight people for a living. So I think somebody like Conor McGregor might be hesitant to just call it quits and, not want to fight again. I don't just like with LeBron, I don't know what he's thinking. He's 37 years old, so he's getting a little over the hill for a fighter, but it doesn't mean he can't fight again. My prediction is he will fight again.
Yeah.
Professionally. Even though maybe he probably shouldn't. My prediction is that he will, because he's Conor McGregor. That's just who he is.
Yeah, and by the way, Nick Morgensen said that it happened in the inspection zone before he entered the cage, where, again, they stop, they take off their shoes, they get last-minute instructions, then the ringside doctor will, administer, gauze and, look over the mouthpiece and stuff. So it looked like he was limping then. But, David, I had to go back, because I was floored when I heard that it was already over, just over a minute into round 1. So I pull up Paramount Plus, rewatch what happened, and I noticed that when he was getting out, taking off his footwear, he kind of like fell backwards a bit, and then you see him get into the cage, though, and begin the fight with Holloway. And I think that Tom Albano, who's on vacation, opened up his Fight IQ recap show last night so perfectly. He goes for a roundhouse kick to start the fight. Like, dude, you're not a spring chicken anymore. And the way that he landed and the slow motion replay looked very much like it was a hyperextension. Then after that, he began to fall 3 separate times on basic kicks right to, the leg that, any other time it's McGregor, he, absorbs that and he's ready to, to keep going. But then he keeps slipping and slipping and slipping. And like I said, Max Holloway has this very beleaguered look, though, at the referee, like, dude, he keeps on slipping. Are you going to call the fight? And he finally does so. So, David, in wake of the loss on Saturday, time for McGregor to finally step away from the cage and stop taking 5 years off and then coming back to fighting? Or what do you think he's going to do?
Lost 4 or 5. Your net worth is over $200 million. Why are you fighting? Like, what do you have to prove? You've won titles and everything. You were a 2-belt guy at one point. I mean, not many of them can say that in terms of like the history of the UFC. I don't know what he has to prove. You start getting, and I guess I always compare it to like boxers who are like 40 plus. I always think of like Larry Holmes, still kept fighting, and then he met Mike Tyson. And
George
Mike
Foreman.
Tyson. Yeah. Well, Foreman actually won the belt. He knocked out Michael Moore. I mean, he was still at least capable. I always think of like Ali when he fought Leon Spinks or whatever it was and just got annihilated. Like I said, Holmes and Tyson. Holmes, I thought, was going to die in the ring. I mean, it was just a massacre. I guess in the UFC thing, I'm thinking like some young kid's going to come in there and I'll fight Conor and then smoke him. And it's like, okay, dude, you're ruining your history and your reputation and everything. So he's going to fight again. I don't know who's going to fight him because I think it's ego and everything else with him. I know he wanted to fight the White House. They told him no, and he was pissed about that, supposedly. Yeah, I think he'll fight again, but I don't know why he's doing it. I mean, you've had a hell of a career, like I said.
But you have to understand, like, he probably doesn't have that mindset. Like,
Yeah.
he's like somebody who becomes a UFC fighter has to be a little crazy and a little reckless on some level. So I agree with what you're saying, but he's not like us. I feel like the only way he'll retire, like, he'll have to get a bunch of pressure from people in his inner circle, if anything.
Right.
Yeah. Especially, I think, if he keeps on losing, I think. And by the way, some more thoughts from Nick Morganson. He says it looked like the knee buckled, and the reports came out from a torn ACL in wake of what happened. And also further, he also left with $30 million last night after the fight was called off yesterday. But Ben, your thoughts on maybe the future of Conor McGregor?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he's going to keep on going. Like, obviously he obviously did it to both of his knees, but, like Nick mentioned, like, this is an eminent guy. He seems like the way that he kind of go about his business, like, I feel like he's probably been in situations like this before in terms like he could probably be done kind of given like what he's done, but he keeps on going. So I think especially like after what happened last night, I think that he doesn't want to like look back and like, 5-10 years from now and be like, yeah, that was my last fight. Like I literally, my knee buckled and I had to tap out practically 69 seconds into the match. So I think he's going to try to go about it again, but he obviously has to recover up and hopefully he can get himself back on track. Because I mean, I didn't, like I said off the airways, I did not watch a single part of it. I didn't want to see some of it, but I just woke up to stuff left and right on social media saying that fight sucked and everything that. So
usual stuff.
I was like, man, I must have not missed much, but then I saw obviously what happened, and it sucks, but I think it'll keep going.
The thing I was gonna say, the one comment about that thing that Ben just said, the thing is then you start chasing, like in terms of like looking for that win. Like he fought Dustin Poirier twice, and one was a complete knockout, and the other one was he broke his leg and it was doctor stoppage. I mean, his last fight, I think they won was Cerrone. So, and then he fought Habib, and then Habib smoked them too. And so I say you're waiting. So it's like, are you now going to be like? I'm not trying to compare it to like pro wrestling. I remember seeing one time I think of Undertaker where he goes, I was chasing that last thing so I can get it right, and I go out in a place of glory. So is it like, does he have to fight some schlub or some like kid to get that win, and then okay, I can retire now. I've done everything.
Yeah, pretty much. With that, though, gang, we are filling a spot on Monday on the network lineup card on Monday. But every great kingdom has a secret, and ours is locked deep within what we're calling the Content Dungeon. You can join myself, Callan, McClurg, and Nick Morganson as we pull back the iron gates on the madness that fuels the network. This is not a regular sports talk show on Monday, but a new, raw, unfiltered truth behind the scenes. From the hard-fought wins to the brutal failures, we will be laying out the bare laying it all bare, discussing the future of our network, unveiling the blueprints for our next big projects, and letting you in on the chaos that happens before the mics go live. If you want to know how the sausage, or the sword, is forged, this is the only place to be. Step inside the Content Dungeon and witness the journey of ETB from the inside out. That'll be debuting tomorrow on Monday at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time, right here on ETB. So make sure you subscribe and join us here on youtube.com/ETB Network. Real quick, though, guys, before we move on here and get to the last part of the show, we always, though, guys, are advertising that we're getting close to 3,000, 4,000 watch hours, of course, and it's been, a very, nice push recently. I kind of wanted to ask real quick. Nick, we'll start with you. I think you've been here for quite a while now. As you have seen this network progress and grow and where it's at now, getting close to these milestones, what does that maybe mean from your perspective about being able to do this? Again, we're all doing this for fun or a labor of love, that we love talking sports and whatnot, but seeing that we're getting close to these two goals, though, DiMart, what does that mean to you personally, if it does?
Well, it'll be pretty nice to make money off of it. That'll be pretty good. I mean, of
course, there's always that incentive. Yes.
I mean, like, look, when we started, we were doing like we were nothing even close to those milestones. We were sponsored by fucking Wolf Spreads. But I actually think Ben would be a better person to ask because he's been here a lot longer than me. But for me, yeah, I mean, the money is a pretty big thing. I would have to say. I would also like, but partly because I'd like to spend more time podcasting and things like that.
Sure.
But I guess the sooner the better. Also, but it's not just about money. It's also just like, oh, we have enough people watching us that we hit these milestones. Like it
People
feels
seem to
sort
care.
All right, it feels sort of surreal.
Yeah, Ben, how about your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like ever since Nick brought me on, for me to kind of just expand to myself into different shows, it's been obviously a great honor, for sure, and obviously to kind of keep going with it. But as years and stuff kind of go over time, I was always curious to see in terms of how, and I think Nick obviously said it too, in terms of how we could be able to kind of like build in terms of kind of making it possibly from just like a network to actually like a broader network in terms of like, not saying competition with other ones, but just kind of the matter of like, how can we really kind of get the overall network's name out there? And I think, between different things, the different sponsors, obviously that little run with a company we had, which I mean, I don't know if Nick wants me to tell it or not, but the watch along stuff on the sports was also obviously great. Especially seeing my team win the championship on there was a lot of fun. But yeah, I think doing a lot of these now, of course, for the people that are watching, we really started to go from kind of more recordings of our shows and obviously just post it online and just hoping that people can kind of see it, to now like recordings, like in terms of here on lives. And I think that the lives have really brought not only just like
he said it for you. There you go.
well, I wasn't even saying that. I was saying the other one.
Hey, playback's fine. They were a great partner until obviously the rising cost of running those operations obviously put them in the graveyard.
Look, for unnecessary wagers, we used the Novig odds because they were sponsoring us.
Correct.
And the odds on Novig never made any sense, and the app always felt kind of sketchy. Like it would always have, like normally, if you look at DraftKings, the odds are like -110, maybe minus 15, something like that. Something very close when you look at like spreads. With Novig, it was like -130 versus +110, things like that. I was like, what the hell kind of lines are these? Like, this isn't right.
Yeah, no, playback obviously was something that was great because, and not only obviously, besides the actual like shows we had, but obviously like, watch like specific sports and stuff with everybody together, I think was great. I mean, obviously the most memorable one that we got to see was the Game 7 World Series, where we all pretty much were like together probably. I mean, I know you, Callan, and Nick, I think were up until about 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock a.m. No, Nick, DiMartino, I don't think you were with us, but I think you were with us for other ones. But it was me, Callan, David, I don't think you were with us. It was Ryan, Nick, Christy. We had a whole group game. It was a lot.
Was that the 18-inning game?
Huh?
Is that the 18-inning game in the World Series last year?
Well, I wasn't there for that one, but I was there for the Game 7 one.
I wasn't there for Game 7, but I wasn't. But I was there for the Game 3 one where it ended at like 2 o'clock in the morning Pacific time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, most probably from World Series. Yeah.
We had a lot of positive and negative comments from that viral clip.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is weird because most of our comments are negative. So,
Game 1 of the NBA Finals with Christie with Halliburton. Yeah, that was.
Why is podcasting equipment so cheap?
Yeah. That was obviously a good one, but. Yeah, no, I just think, obviously, I think that the lives have been a lot more fun because obviously I think the engagement's been a lot better. And I think just obviously the adding more shows as well, too, have just been awesome to have. So, of course, like Nick mentioned, definitely hoping to get paid pretty soon. And, just for the people watching it to keep coming with us and obviously to keep just giving their comments, and we'll keep on trucking along for sure.
Well, we might not be able to get paid if the commenters get their wish and podcasting equipment becomes more expensive. So.
True.
That was like the running gag when I first got here was all those comments on TikTok. But David, obviously you and I are, two of the newer guys on ETB, but thoughts about kind of getting close to a couple of really cool milestones across the digital web.
Yeah, I wasn't here since the beginning, but I wrote down someone here, so it's like if we just start this and you go on the map, I guess it is like you're at 0, and like you're looking up here in the mountain at 3,000, 4,000, and you're just like, my God, that just seems like it'll be an eternity before we hit that, and you just, like you said, you just start knocking goals down. Okay, we got to 500,000. You just keep moving forward. You're not like, oh, you might have had a stop. Let's say you have 15 or 2,000, etc. So yeah, what's the comment? I see Callan laughing.
Yo, what do you think podcasting equipment is other than a laptop and access to the internet? Like
and
everybody
a microphone.
has.
That's all you need.
Everybody other than the Amish have podcasting equipment. Like,
hey, there's probably some secret Amish in Lancashire who got some podcasting equipment somewhere.
I'll tell you, David, your diagram. I mean, for myself, being a big, I'm not a big golfer, but I love playing golf, and I'm amateur more than ever. But it's like having different clubs, and it's like, all right, you have the 6-iron, you have the 8-iron, you have the pitching wedge, you got everything just in front of you.
Right.
And it's like, all right, I'm gonna have one club that I'm gonna get all the way to the top with to have my perfect drive, and just finish there. Because right now, currently, I have a couple clubs that I'm really good with. That's the pitching wedge, and that is the 3-wood. From there, it's always a mystery.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like you said, getting paid's very cool. But no, it's cool seeing this, and you hear like it's just the goal part. Like you said, it's 2,000, it's 3,000. It's almost, I almost consider it's not trying to compare it. It's almost like Major League Baseball with hits, like 2,000.
Oh yeah,
2,500 hits. That's what I look at with these hours. So,
and David, that's like, you and me being in the hockey business. I'm going on 400 AHL games this upcoming December, roughly, and 500 in total across, since I was a sophomore in high school. And that's also with me with the database being gone. But I agree though regarding that. Being a part of this network, having been other places, and again, they were all great people that I work with. But obviously, in this industry, though, you go to a place when a new chance comes, though, and to be able to do so, here and get to know everybody and stuff like that, and be a part of this, and have a bit more creative direction to kind of get us where we're at right now. And currently, not bad. We're getting close.
Yeah, like I said. That's the next one. Then you go to
I want a brand deal of Mountain Dew when we hit 4,000. Watch out.
Wow.
Hey, I own stock in Yum Foods, so maybe we can make that happen.
I'm going to make a projection right now. And Morganson, if you're listening, which I anticipate you are at this point in time right now, my projection of when it's going to happen. And obviously, if I'm wrong, I'll hand up. I'll always be the one to always be at the first one to have it. I think it's going to be during I think it's going to be happening during a football forecast, right during football season. I think that we're going to have it during the football season. I think it's going to be one of them where Nick's going to want to have a Jets. Of course, DiMartino, Nick obviously pick against the Jets almost every week, and it's like yes, like you can't celebrate it anymore because we got 4,000, whatever we need it, and that's my production. I think
what do we need? 4,000? Is that what it is?
4,000 for monetization, but 3,000 we kind of unlock some special features, like we can open up a merch store online. Super chats become a thing where people can get their comment like to the front of the line though, but they give like $1 donation, $5 donation, $10 donation.
Okay,
yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean I'm kind of the same way, but I'm glad to be of service here. So with that, guys, we'll get to all things, though, with baseball. The first half of the season finally in the books. We'll see, though, where though, our teams stand. Are we buyers? Are we sellers? Or lost at sea, though? Mr. DiMartino, the Mets keep letting it down, my man. And obviously, we talked, though, on Lounge 2 weeks ago about the firing of Carlos Mendoza. More people want David Stearns out of a job more than they wanted Mendoza out of a job. Obviously, a rough weekend playing the Red Sox to end a very much, limping to the finish line first half of the season while they trade Francisco Lindor because him and Soto aren't getting along. Nick, overall recap, I guess, but your thoughts about the Mets first half of the season, which is obviously they were under a microscope this whole entire first half of the season, and things have not, and I don't think they are going to be getting better anytime soon.
Well, it's been a total disaster. And
yeah.
Now the Mets lineup has a bunch of no names on it.
AAA guys.
Who's this guy, Zach Short? I was like, he's been playing second base. I'm like, who the hell? I'm watching, like, who the hell is Zach Short? Who is this guy?
I mean, yeah, Bichette obviously hasn't been playing a couple of games, and they put this guy in. And I'm like, Zach Short.
Yeah, and the way this game ended was just a disaster. We were up 2-0 going into the 9th inning, and then end up losing an extra innings because of an error. It wasn't even Devin Williams' fault.
No,
it just
lost today.
Grace. I mean, look, I understand why they fired Mendoza. Clearly, Mendoza was not the problem because nothing has changed since firing.
Yeah,
Mendoza.
the same shit, different day.
But Mike, the thing is, if you look at like the NL East right now, and you look at the standings, imagine if you looked at them blindly. You had no idea what had happened this season. You woke up from a coma 6 months ago, and you looked at you looked at the standings blindly, and you saw the 55 win team all the way down to the 40 and 57 team. Who would have ever guessed the Mets were the 40 and 57 team? You'd be like, all right, maybe they're second or third place. Worst case scenario, maybe fourth place, the 48-49 team, which is where the Nationals are. Who would have ever thought the Mets would be 40 and 57? The biggest Mets pessimists would not have thought that.
By the way, Zach Short, they got off the Tigers last month, and the reason why he's in because Marcus Semien is out.
Semien, yeah, that's why. But Semien,
that was a terrible trade.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look. I've changed my mind a little bit on the Alonso trade. Sorry, not the trade.
Him signing in Baltimore via free agency, yeah.
Letting him walk. And my thing is, I would have been okay with letting him walk if there was at least a replacement or some sort of plan. But the Mets don't even have a first baseman. They don't have a single first baseman. They put Jorge Polanco there. Polanco never played first base. Or hardly played first base at all in his career. Or you're putting Vientos there. Vientos is not a traditional first baseman. Like, you don't even have a first baseman.
Eric Wagaman.
Yeah, Wagaman.
Yeah. Well, he's in now because Vientos is out for 4 to 8 weeks. He broke his hand.
So we have this revolving door of first basemen. It's just a total clown show. But the truth is, the reason this team is bad is not really because of
Clown show.
They'd be a little better with Alonso, but look, they're still a disaster. They'd still be pretty bad. So,
I mean, their expected win-loss record right now per the standings is 52 and 55. That's their expected win-loss record right now on the MLB website.
I'm very shocked, Nick, in terms of like the disappointment with Peralta, because I thought that Peralta obviously would definitely be giving you guys a little bit more. I mean, I don't know how many starts that he had in the first half. That gave me kind of. I mean, obviously McLean's going to be great. I think he will be for a while. And obviously, he went through a little bit about it, but he's a young guy. Very with obviously the Yankees with Schiller, but Peralta was supposed to be kind of anchored part. And I mean, a lot of the starts I've been seeing, it's been almost 5 innings less, or just hasn't gone deep. And then the loss of Clay Holmes, I think, was a very underrated loss as well too, because he was a big part, to that overall rotation as well. I do think that the offense obviously went through during that, I think it was an 11-game losing streak that they had, mid part of the first half. A lot of it was on the offense. Don't get me wrong, but I do think some of the pitching, some of the injuries and stuff, and obviously the top half being up and down as well too, just hasn't helped as well.
David, how about some thoughts on the Phillies? Obviously, they also went the route of firing Rob Thompson for Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly, who has seemed to right the ship so far for Philadelphia. Made up all that ground, too, in the NL East, but they enter the break 2 games back of the Braves for first place. Also have a wild card spot, but, I mean, what a turnaround so far for Philadelphia.
Well, I was in Cincinnati last week for on vacation to see the series. Phillies were in Cincinnati playing the Reds. Come to some conclusions. This is their last year to have a chance to win a title, and there's problems there. I mean, they don't really talk about. I look at this thing with this. First of all, their starting rotation, their front three's fine. The back two, Nolan, bullpen guy, whoever it is, because Painter couldn't pitch this year. That's big problems. Their major issues, the bullpen. Righties are fine. They have no left-handers. I mean, Tanner Banks had batting practice last week in Cincinnati. The next day, they put him on the DL with whatever it was. I called it home run ice because he gave 3 in a row with an ERA well over 6. And then their other guy, Jose Alvarado, who I think he's getting close to $10 million a year this year, whatever it is. His ERA is over 7. As I said, they have nobody. I mean, you got Tim Meisen who's bounced around. He's like 3.5, 4. All right, whatever. You need lefties in clutch situations, late innings to win games. You can't go with all righties. I mean, you got Bolin and Durant. Okay, fine. The hitting, I'm skeptical there too. As I said, this team could be. They could have a blistering second half. My thing is get to October and win to prove me wrong. I'm not, like you said, Schwarber's fine. Harper is, okay. He panders too much for me, which annoys the shit out of me to no end. But Turner, I have issues with him. With JT Realmuto for $15 million a year is back 200, or maybe he's 202, whatever it is. It's just this is going to get ugly here at the end. With well, like I said, I'll be brief on this. Like you said, just like you get to the deadline, they have nobody really to. If you want somebody at the deadline to go win the title, they're 29th out of 30 teams in their farm system. You have Gage, Wood, and Painter. So if you want to say, I'm throwing an example.
I from the very bottom.
Yes, you're right. You're at number 30 because you guys traded all your guys away. Yeah, I mean we just haven't developed. We had a couple guys. Yeah, but that's it. But that's I'm using this example. Cindy wanted Aroldis Chapman from the Red Sox. I'm just making a lefty. Just I threw him out there.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Or Robbie Ray. They're just going to go. Every team will go like this. We want Gage Wood. And it's like, no, we're not. Okay, thanks. Click.
Yeah.
That's what's going to be. And that's why I said down the road, they're going to lose guys, with contracts expiring. They're going to, Wheeler's done after next year if they play. Middleton's strategy is going to have to be, he's going to have to buy guys off free agency because their farm system absolutely sucks. I mean, I've seen in AAA, and they have nobody down there. I mean, it's just it's a rough situation. That's why I said. I mean, Marsh has played well, and some of our guys have. They have nobody in right field. It's just like they're playing. Derek Hill, they got off a trade from the White Sox. He's been better than some of the other guys. It's just like you said. You just go, all right, we'll see second half. I mean, they start the second half. They got at homestand Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, all at home. So
please beat the Dodgers for heaven's sakes.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm very with this team. I just see what happens, but to me, it's gonna. I told it to Ben when we've done heading for the cycle, etc. Win in October, because if you lose again, this team's gonna. You might as well just stick dynamite and just blow the whole team up and just say we're gonna do a whole rebuild.
Ben, the Red Sox back in the thick of things right now, 9 wins in a row, still 10 back in the division, but though a half game back, though, of the wild card after pulling themselves out of a rut, though. Ben, overall thoughts on the Sox, especially ending the first half on a good note with 9 straight W's? It's
been unbelievable. Obviously, there's a couple times hand up. Obviously, speaking of hand up, I've kind of, I wouldn't say gotten a full quit, but there's a lot of times, and relatively so, it looked like it was one of the worst teams in baseball. I mean, there was a lot of moments. Obviously, the series loss against the Rockies was one of them. Obviously, where we were under the Angels as legit the worst recordized team in the American League, and that was like after Memorial, like early June after Memorial Day, just it really kind of started to turn around, and Me and Ryan too. Shout out to my guy Ryan on Hitting for the Psycho. Ryan always seems to kind of tell me that the Red Sox always seem to kind of have a turn on after being the Yankees, and we obviously played the Yankees earlier on in June, and we split because one of the games was rained out, but we didn't play well. Like I just kind of said, all right, it's whatever. But the 4 games at home against the Yankees where we swept them, I thought to myself, I'm like, well. It's like, all right, it's a series of like bragging rights of like, all right, it's whatever, like it's still a solid type of team. Or could this be the start of possibly something? Who knows? And so just kind of looking ahead, they went to go play the Nationals at home. They lost 2-3. It's like, all right, back to reality. But then since then, they took 3. They swept the Angels. They swept at the White Sox. Finally, the White Sox, they didn't lose a series at home until April. So the Red Sox were the first team to do that since the month of April. So that was pretty impressive. Granted, they didn't have Murakami, but to win that series and to sweep them, and then obviously to take 3 games against the Mets, which obviously in the first game we we had another flight delay. So between like the flight issues, between the injuries, between the suspensions, the Red Sox haven't cared right now. They're basically battling everything, and I guess it doesn't really matter. 9-game winning streak, hottest team, of course, into the break. They were the hottest team, I thought, last year heading into the break. The problem was, though, the carryover. Last year, they played the Dodgers right out of the gate last year. I remember that vividly because I was on a cruise ship, and I thought to myself, watching that game on the cruise ship, the whole entire weekend series, I'm like, oh, man, damn. Just take me back to what it was before. But I'm just looking at this, and David, of course, me and David obviously like to talk stats. The Red Sox starting pitching obviously has been at the forefront in terms of the overall round. This is obviously without Garrett Crochet. Over the last 22 games, 124 innings pitched, a 1.95 ERA as an overall team starting pitching, a .95 WHIP, and that's unreal. I mean, Peyton Tolley, Jake Bennett, obviously coming up from the Washington trade. Patrick Sandoval having his first starting pitching since the Celtics parade. That was the last time he pitched for the Red Sox. And he pitched well against the White Sox. So different guys are contributing, and you have different guys from AAA that are coming up like crazy, like Anthony Siegler and Tayshaun Chang, who's playing second base. Just like random guys, but they're playing well. And I think it's also a credit to Chad Tracy, who obviously came at a really tough time part of the season after firing Cora. And now the Sox are back in the race. I didn't expect it to happen, but it's awesome to see. But can they carry it over? Because right after the game, and David, obviously you mentioned your overall thing, the Red Sox are going from their longest road trip to their longest homestand. Right out of the gate, they have 3 straight series against AL East foes, 4 against the Rays, 3 against the Orioles, 3 against the Jays. That overall stretch will determine in terms of what happens down the road. But it was a great turnaround. Vibes really high and awesome to see.
If you would have told me, gentlemen, sitting here on the end of the first half, that the Padres would have Fernando Tatis Jr. with 5 home runs and a .277 batting average, Xander Bogaerts having 37 runs batted in and hitting .224, Gavin Sheets on a minor league deal again hitting .221 with 14 homers, Jackson Merrill hitting .219 with 10 homers, and Manny Machado hitting .203 with 19 homers and 55 runs batted in. And this team is 500 at the end of the first half after enduring an 8-game losing streak, losing every conceivable starting pitcher and bullpen arm. And this team, held together by gauze and tape and duct tape, is somehow, some way 48-48 after the first half of the year with a rookie manager. I'd say this sounds about right because of where this team has gone so far, with where things have been. Obviously, that 8-game skid really, I think, knocked them probably, I think, out of the playoff running for the season. I know there's still 4 games out, though, but they got to leapfrog so many teams right now where things stand. And they have nothing, like David said, there is nothing right now in the Padre farm system between El Paso and San Antonio and, Fort Wayne and Lake Elsinore that you can trade to make this roster any better. So you're kind of stuck with where things are at. You're still waiting for the ownership sale to be fully confirmed, though, by the Baseball Board of Governors that hasn't been approved yet still, which I think is a little shocking. And you got to make up 3.5 games coming out of the break, and you go on the Comic-Con road trip because Comic-Con's coming to town. So you got to go to Kansas City, Atlanta, and Miami out of the gate before you come back to play the Rockies and Giants. But for them, though, guys, to be having such a dismal season with so many injuries, the lack of production from the lineup, the lack of production from the overpriced star players like Bogaerts and Toddy and Machado and Merrill and whatnot, and having a beleaguered starting rotation, the bullpen losing arms left and right, and calling up a bunch of guys from AAA. For them to hold this team together somehow, despite them having that 8-game skid, 48 wins, 48 losses. Yeah, they're not going to win the division title, but they come off a good series win over the Blue Jays. This is probably where I think a lot of people probably had San Diego, including myself. I think you have to kind of, in a way, tamper your expectations a bit when you bring in, a rookie manager. And again, I'll be frank, I was not a fan of this hire of Craig Stammen when they made the move, though, to let when Mike Schilt departed, because I think when you have this kind of a veteran group, like with what you have here and all the big money, you can't afford to have a yes man become the manager, though. And I know that Craig was a great pitcher here and whatnot, but he's learning on the job. I get it, though. But I did not like that hire from the word go, though. But I will give him credit that this team is 48 after the first half of the season, despite an 8-game losing streak, losing players left and right, what have you. So Good on San Diego, and hopefully they can keep this going when the next half of the year does, in fact, roll around.
Well, just to talk about the Red Sox, they're in a the one thing that they have going for them is that the AL is so bad this year. I mean, there's only there's only 5 teams in the AL that are above 500. So of all the teams that you're competing against, all you really need to do is barely be above average, and you make the playoffs. I'm not saying they're likely to make the playoffs. I mean, Seattle, they're a half a game below 500, and they're in the wild card spot. So, I mean, they're tied with the Twins right now, both at 48 and 49. So, the Red Sox, I mean, they dug themselves in a hole, but I mean, the Red Sox now are 46 and 48. They're not far out of the wild card at all.
Oh, not at all. No, and I agree with you, Nick. And that's what made it so frustrating.
They're half a game behind.
Yeah, I mean, that's what made it so frustrating, where we were, early June, because I told myself, I'm like, with this impending lockout coming up next year, which knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't, but we all know it's going to happen, David. Obviously, let's get ready for next year. But, yeah, no, I mean, the pitching that we had, if we could get some comparable bats, at least at the deadline, I think we have a pretty good shot in the second half, because the whole entire American League, I mean, the Rays, I guess you can say at least, I guess, but they seem like you could beat them, and we have them for 4 games. The Yankees are probably not going to be without Judge probably for the remainder of the regular season. And if he comes back, what are they going to get out of him at this point in time? I mean, he'll probably still be fine, but you don't know. And then it's kind of a crapshoot from there. The Tigers obviously are coming up a little bit, but what happens to Skubal? There's a lot of questions. I do think we got ourselves kind of back in the position. It's a good thing at this point in time right now, because the American League's a crapshoot. So for the people who are saying we should start to sell pieces, I just don't agree, because what are you selling at this point in time when you have probably don't win a season next year? And I think
the Yankees have been a lot better lately. They just won 4 in a row. Granted, 3 of those games were against the Nationals, who are not great. I mean, they're average. They're okay. But they do have the Dodgers. They do have the Dodgers coming up, so that might bring them down a notch. And then they have the Pirates, or they can hang with the Pirates, and then they have the Phillies. So it looks like their schedule is getting a little more difficult.
Yeah. I do think they got out of the swoon. And Ryan, if you hear me, yes, I did say that to you.
All right. And like I said, the Padres will open up in Kansas City. Then they will head to Atlanta, who they have simply been just dominating the last couple of years. And then we'll head to Miami to hopefully make up some ground on the wild card again, because they go on the 10-game Comic-Con trip starting after the All-Star break comes and goes. Gentlemen, ownership changes in the NFL. The Seattle Seahawks, fresh off of a world championship, are officially going to be sold for a mind-boggling, record-setting $9.6 billion to redefine the financial blueprint for NFL ownership groups going forward, as the Seahawks sale will blows past previous professional sports franchise transactions, setting a new massive baseline for future ownership liquidations, including the Padres, who are being sold still for $3.9 billion over in Major League Baseball. Nick, your thoughts on this, though? Does a $9.6 billion valuation mean we are fast approaching a future where only massive private equity firms can afford to buy an NFL franchise? Or is this solely based off of the sale by the Allen family, but also the Seahawks coming off of winning the Super Bowl? Your thoughts?
I think it has a lot to do with Seattle winning the Super Bowl, because that just makes the team much more valuable. I don't think it means that. I don't think it means that only groups can own teams moving forward. Although part of me thinks that groups owning teams is sometimes a little better than individuals. I mean, so part of me is maybe it's better for groups to own teams than clowns like Woody Johnson,
a family.
Right, or a family. So I feel like
Will Ponds.
Right, I feel like all the disaster owners that everybody hates, it's not groups, it's always individuals or families.
Dean Spanos.
So, right, maybe the group is a better option. If you think about it, there's no James Dolan or Woody Johnson equivalent of groups. So, and all the individuals are all super wealthy, and most of them came from insane wealth too. So I don't really see it.
Jerry Jones with the Cowboys, as Christy writes in.
Yeah,
Stan
I
Kroenke.
don't think Jerry Jones is necessarily that terrible of an owner. He just kind of has a reputation. The Cowboys are at least usually in it consistently. He's not an owner like Woody Johnson, whose team has been just a disaster. I mean, the Jets haven't made the playoffs in 15 years.
No, there's a bad owner right there.
Yeah, exactly. So all the terrible owners are individuals. Maybe it would be better if we had groups.
Yeah, maybe. And again,
that's who the Fenway Sports Group, who decides to look at Liverpool and Pittsburgh Penguins, so put it into big market baseball players. But that's another story.
Well, Ben, you don't have to worry about that now because Fenway sold off the Penguins to a family who just bought them, I think, a few months ago, I want to say. So they're done. So Fenway's done paying attention to the Penguins.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Ben, any thoughts though about the sale for the Seahawks though? $9.6 billion per reports.
Yeah, no, I mean, good for them. Obviously, coming off of beating us in the Super Bowl. Yeah, sucks still. But yeah, just they're going to be a good team for years to come. I think they obviously have a really well run, front office. I just think that, obviously they want this. This was kind of in the rumblings too, after the Super Bowl is kind of over. So this doesn't really come much of it as a shock. So,
David, how about your thoughts here about the Seahawks and the impending sale?
I mean, it's going to be the future. It's going to be venture groups. I mean, you're not going to have the individual one like you were saying about Kroenke. They're worth over $21 billion, and the thing about that group too is they win. I mean, he has. Let me see if I get this right. They were seeing in a cluster: the Rams, the Nuggets, the Avalanche, Arsenal.
Yep.
And even like the lacrosse one, he's won too. Like I said, the guy just wins. I mean, lately he's just been on such a roll, but that's what's going to be in the future. No matter who, like you said, you're not going to have the individual group like Jerry. When the time comes after Jerry's kids sell the team, it will be some group in Texas. Like, here's this. And I can't even imagine at that point, if this is 10 bill, imagine what you could probably sell Dallas or these other ones for. You probably, I mean, I'm saying this sarcastically. We're looking at $20 billion for Dallas Cowboys for sale.
You would think, right? 20 billion?
Like the top of the top in terms of the NFL.
One or both of the teams in New York would have to be up there too, I'd say.
Yeah. The Giants, well, the Jets 20 billion? Meh. I know Nick's probably like never.
No.
No, Morgan said too. He's probably like never. But yeah, you're talking. I mean, if they're getting 10 billion for Seattle, and the market, you said it has to be between like the Rams to Kroenke. He probably would make double what he's now.
I mean, the stadium alone was $5.5 billion in Inglewood that they built the stadium at the Hollywood racetrack too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this is the future of all this stuff in terms of it's going to be groups, individuals.
Yeah, I mean, like the days of like, just from my perspective, again, being in San Diego, like you won't see like a Peter Seidler, for example, singly own the Padre franchise where, as what I've been reporting on though via Substack or in audio form, is that it's going to be, a husband and wife not using their clearly capital group to buy the Padres. And then it's going to be a bunch of stakeholders like the Jacobs family who began Qualcomm Communications, Drew Brees, Michael Persall, and a bunch of other, like they might be getting one of the Indian tribes on board as well, too. So I think that the days of like the sole ownership, like are kind of in a way getting closer, I think, to kind of in a way going down the tube. So, and I think though Seattle is a very great sports marketplace too, with what the Seahawks have built, what the Mariners have kind of done though since '95. Them finally getting the NHL there after all the years of trying to get pro hockey there over the last 60 years. Great success with the Totems back in the early days of the WHL. Who else? The NBA hopefully going back there after the Sonics left in 2008. Great soccer community, though, too, with the Sounders and the reign of the NWSL. Great. And again, just a great destination in general, I'd say, though. And Morganson writes, $1 is all the Jets are worth.
Here's the thing, though, with the Sonics, and that is with that group, are they going to jump in? Because what they say, the entrance fee is what, $10 billion? Something like that? Yeah. So are they going to jump into that one? It says they're worth $13 billion. So are they going to, put groups together? Do they get like Marshawn Lynch, and they get this one and that
The
one.
founder of Starbucks, the founders of Microsoft, the founders of Boeing Aircrafts, Alaska Airlines.
Right. That's I said. So it's $10 billion, I think, for them and possibly Vegas to get in. So yeah, it's going to be groups like the days of Jerry and Steve Cohen.
Yeah,
they're winding down.
Well,
Nick D.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one sec, David. I wanted to ask real quick though, because now there's the looming thought of the NHL going to Houston or Austin. Do you happen to remember at all by chance what Foley and the Kraken paid for I feel like the expansion fees were like what, $2.5 to $3 billion, I think, for those two teams, I want to say.
God, I want to say it was a couple $1 billion. I mean, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I did hear about Houston. That's been going on for a while.
Because the potential owner, by the way, is Dan Friedkin, who missed out on buying the Padres, and he's worth $10 billion, and he's actually from here because his grandfather helped start what was then Pacific Southwest Airlines back in the early days.
Kraken paid $650 million for an expansion fee.
So, and they're talking about that fee could be $2.5 to $3 billion for the new team if they go to Houston or Austin.
Yeah, and the ones who are loving, and they were talking Atlanta again for the third time too, and the owners are just like, because they all get a piece of the pie. Like you said, you want to bring them in? Yeah, sure. Here's $30 million in your pocket. So
yeah, DMart, you gonna respond?
So I was gonna say that Gary Vaynerchuk has expressed interest in buying the Jets. I mean, I don't think he has the money now, but he has said in the past that his goal is to buy the Jets. And
why does that name ring a bell?
He's a famous wealthy guy.
There's a lot of them out there.
Gary Vaynerchuk. He founded Vayner Media. What is he really known? What is he?
Here we go. I found it. Best known for, let's see. Best known for growing up in a wine business, launching wine library television, CEO of his own media company.
Yeah, he's a big Jet fan, and he's expressed interest in buying the Jets. He has said many times that he actually wants to buy the Jets. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I hope it does. It would be a whole new beginning for Jet fans.
Yeah, anybody but the Johnson family, which I think though, to Ben's point though, Nick, it feels like though what I've heard though from like yourself or Morganson or other Jet fans in general, Woody Johnson cares more about the EPL clubs he owns in European soccer than caring about the Jets.
Sorry.
Look, I don't know what he cares about or not, but he's doing a bad job with the Jets. I can tell you that much. Okay.
I was just looking on something quick. So in August 2025, they said the Jets were estimated worth of $8.1 billion. You need to tell me. Yeah, no, 2025. Now this new sale, Woody's probably just like, all right, I'm doubling. Like it's probably $15 billion.
Yeah.
Wait till Elon buys a team.
You know what? Wouldn't surprise me. He gets a group and just
he will buy the London NFL team, and they'll be sponsored by Tesla and Starlink. It'll be called Tesla Field at Starlink Park.
It's no absurd. It would be no more absurd than him buying Twitter and renaming it X.
Yeah, which we still call it Twitter.
Yeah, but like we laugh about it, but like you said, when you're a trillionaire, who says he wouldn't buy it?
Yeah.
He just picks a team. If so, like you said, the Jets, if they called, I mean, yeah.
Musk will buy the Cowboys.
I'm not convinced Elon Musk would be a very good owner of an NFL team unless he put a lot of really smart people like behind him. That's the only way. But I don't think he'd be a good NFL owner.
Nick, good point. I thought Jeff Bezos would, but he can't with Prime Video having a rights with the NFL.
Yeah, that's true.
You'd have to sell.
I think he'd be a great, or would have been a great NFL owner. Honestly, I really think so.
You also, right? I was going to say with Nick, you got to get the right football minds. In terms of money.
The problem with owners is that they're not football minds.
Yeah,
usually
they're just filthy rich, and they just care about the bottom line paychecks usually and the bottom line payroll or what have you. But yeah. Do not put it past Elon Musk. The London Lions will be coming eventually, or they can be called the London something will be coming, and they'll be playing at Starling Field at Wembley Stadium. I don't know.
Yeah.
How about Mark Cuban for an NBA or for an NFL owner?
I mean, it doesn't sound that absurd. He already owned an NBA team.
Well, he was trying to get back with the Mavericks too. That was
and they keep shutting him out.
Yeah, you heard about that? Yeah, he wanted to get back because all that money that they were getting, and those current owners just went, "Nah, we're good," and they just blew him off.
Yeah.
Yeah. With that, guys, from the NFL to the NBA, the ongoing Kawhi Leonard sweepstakes, we thought reached a fever pitch, though, with him heading back to Toronto, but hard stop, though, fellas. We have a report, though, that, of course, came out that the NBA has stalled the trade or blocked it so far, at least put it on hold, I should say, due to the never-ending aspiration NBA salary cap circumvention investigation that is still, though, gentlemen, dragging on here to early July across the NBA. There was reports put up, though, by both the Clippers and the Raptors that now, in a way, like I said, though, I think on Cranium or even on Press Row, that this feels like, though, guys, you're trying in a way, like this feels like you're dodging the draft during wartime, that you're trying to get the player or the person out of the country, literally and figuratively, because he's going to be going back to Toronto, to dodge the punishment, though, that might be coming. There's even talk that wherever Kawhi went, that the team may have to face the penalties too, which I think was definitely wrong, though. Nick D, I think what we're all ticked off about here, all four of us on the show and the entire network, how in the world has this investigation that got started around the NBA gambling scandal in October, how is there still no resolution to this when we've heard so many false deadlines coming about by Christmas, by the New Year, by All-Star Weekend at Intuit Dome where the Clippers play in Inglewood, to when the Clippers season ends, though? Now, here we are, though, fellas, in the middle of the Summer League, past the draft, though, and there is still no concrete information at this point. And by the way, per Sham Sharania, thank you to Nick for helping out here. The Raptors would assume punishment if the trade is completed, though. So, Nick D, are you... Yeah, which again, I think, though, goes to my point, though, that in a way, this is like dodging the draft, though, like getting the guy out of your hair, and someone else guilty by association, like the Raptors would then face the scrutiny or the punishment when it comes to Kawhi Leonard, though. So, Nick, how badly has the NBA fumbled this whole entire circumvention scandal plus this ongoing dragged out fight legally?
I mean, they couldn't have mismanaged it any worse. I think Pablo Torre needs to investigate the investigation.
Yeah.
We need to find out what they were doing all this time. Also, like, why didn't they say this when the trade happened? Why are we finding out after the fact? And why would you punish the team that didn't do it? They're just trading for him. Like, why would you punish the Raptors but not the Clippers? And also, this seems like the first time that, like, would the player individually typically be punished for this? Usually it would be more the team, the organization. This isn't really something that a player would typically be punished for.
David, do you happen to remember with the whole Joe Smith issue with the Timberwolves, did he face any punishment, or was that just Kevin McHale and Glenn Taylor who faced the punishment back when this happened about 25 years ago?
God, I vaguely remember that. I don't know. That's exactly, I can look it up, but I mean, I don't know if anybody there got. I thought if anybody got suspended with that, with the Timberwolves, I thought it was Joe Smith, but like I could be wrong on that. That happened so long ago. As soon as you said, I was like, yeah, I'm just trying to see if there's some illegal under the table contract, and they were the team was severely punished.
But I don't really think that typically that player, because now I have to look that up. I'm not sure.
I just found it.
Okay.
So David Stern found the Wolves guilty of circumventing the salary cap because the deal was three straight 1 year, $3 million contracts. After year 3, Minnesota offered him an $86 million deal, but the true nature of the agreement came to light in court. Reports indicate that it was an under-the-table deal arranged with his agent, splitting the payments and bonuses outside the official contract, which allowed the team to keep his salary low on paper while still providing sufficient financial benefits, though. The Wolves were docked five first-round draft picks. 2 of them were given back. The team was fined $3.5 million, voiding of Smith's most recent contract, loss of his bird rights, suspension of team owner Glenn Taylor, and leave of absence given for Kevin McHale. So nothing to so since Nick asked, and so both Nick confirms it, and then DiMart asked. So no, DiMart, no suspension went the way, though, of Joe Smith.
Right. So he wasn't even really punished.
No,
really.
Just everybody else around him was.
Right. So that is all. I mean, he was affected by it, but the team was the one that was punished. Why would they punish the Raptors for trading for Kawhi when they're not the ones that did it? I don't understand.
I don't think they would. Good.
Yeah, David, I was going to say, though, I think that brings up that Nick D brings a great point, though, is that why would it be, and I call this again, guilty by association, that if, say, the trade goes through, though, and then all the punishment goes to Toronto, but not the actual guilty party in this case, though. David, your thoughts on how this whole thing has been botched by the NBA front office?
It's all on the commissioner. 10 months to come up with a decision. This is all on the commissioner, and he botched something before on this stuff. I think the thing's going to go through. I think they'll figure out whatever it is. Maybe somebody get a fine out of it, whether it's Leonard or the Clippers. Toronto, I don't think is going to get anything out of this in terms of like punishment. But I do think the contract will finally go through. But it's all on the commissioner. He's just dragged his feet too much. It shouldn't take 10 months and they keep going, well, we're almost there. We're almost there. Like kicking the can down the road. This is all on him. So Ben, I think David's right, though, that we've kicked this can down the road, so oftentimes. And Christie has long said, though, that Adam Silver is an ass kisser, where, again, I said that the commissioner is not supposed to be buddy with the players. You're supposed to be, representing the league as the governor, the president, the dictator, what have you. And then he can't be, acting goody two shoes with all the guys like you're one of the guys when you're not. You're a NBA figurehead, leading the league forward. And this is not how you go about this, though, about it. Yeah, as David said, though, Ben, 10 months and there's still no resolution. Your thoughts on this whole thing involving the Kawhi Leonard trade being stalled because of the ongoing circumvention and aspiration, no-show job issues here involving the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard?
Yeah, no, it's a joke. And David said that, he thinks that's probably going to get done, but like, even if it does get done, it's still a bad look regardless. I mean, like DiMartino was mentioning, like it took 10, 12 months to to obviously work it out. Like, I don't know in terms of why it's been taking them that long, why it has to be, until now. Like they obviously get the trade through, and then boom, this happens. Like there has to be a better plan in place. I think that was also in terms of why a lot of teams backfired in terms of not going for him, in terms of the overall player. Obviously a team like the Warriors, there'll probably be other teams for Kawhi's, obviously for destination, but there's stuff probably in the, behind the scenes, whether of course, injuries and stuff. A lot of teams, when they of course look at different trade partners, of course we were talking about LeBron earlier on the program, like it's not just the overall player. It's in terms of like, have they had any injuries? Have they have any type of, off the field backlash type of crap? This obviously go like off the court type of stuff. Of course, him too with he barely plays games anymore on a consistent basis as well too. So that's also something to take into a factor. But I just don't understand why it's been this long, and then all of a sudden here's the punishment. Like they shouldn't be getting punished as an overall team if the overall league is essentially put in the way of causing the punishment when they're getting punished. That makes sense.
Nick Morganson for the rights. Guys, the NBA, Adam Silver needs to stop dragging his feet and just announce the findings. The only holdup that could really be investigating is or was Kawhi involved in the payments under the table. And if that's the case, and if Kawhi was involved directly, there needs to be a void of his contract, and he should be suspended if he was involved directly, unlike Joe Smith. And I think we all agree, if you're directly involved, then yes, you should be, given consequences of some type, I'd say.
Even if he is suspended, he basically plays half the games anyway. It's almost like
yeah, I know.
Right?
Is it really that bad if he gets suspended?
It would have to be a whole year suspension where he can't play in general. So there you go.
Heck, he's making all this money. At this point, he could be on the court. Doesn't have to be on the court.
With that, guys, we'll close out with one last topic here revolving around the announcement of Justin Verlander, longtime Tiger right-hander, potential first-ballot Hall of Famer, announcing his retirement earlier in the week, closing the book on one of the most dominant, fearsome pitching tenures of the modern-day generation. Verlander will walk away from the game with over 260 career wins, 3 Cy Young Awards, an MVP, and, of course, a World Series in Houston, and also with well over 3,400 strikeouts. David Waitman, how will you remember Justin Verlander's time across Major League Baseball on the mound?
Dominating pitcher early on in Detroit. Won a World Series of Houston. Felt he was really good there. I wonder. I probably wouldn't happen, but I would wonder if Detroit would ever consider trading him at the deadline to a
To
team
a contender?
for a contender to win a championship. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, hell of a career. First ballot Hall of Famer for sure. Yeah, I mean, just not much more you could say. I mean, he was getting hurt. Like, it was longer. They probably wanted to go out as a Tiger. I get that part, but he's not had the best year. He's been hurt a lot. But we'll see what the Tigers do. But yeah, he was the real deal. I mean, as I said, he was dominating for a certain part of his career. Like, especially with Detroit. Yeah, I mean, he was the real deal. What do you do? Make sure 2 or 3 no hitters.
I know he had at least 1 or 2 for sure.
He had Ryan was saying on in for the cycle this past week. He had Houston and Detroit.
Okay, and he's won what 2 or 3 Cy Youngs too, right?
3 Cy Youngs, an MVP, and a world title.
Yeah,
look through the list again.
That's first ballot right there. I mean,
3,400 strikeouts. More importantly,
yeah, 3,400 strikeouts, and he's got over 250 wins. I mean, that's like, so we were talking about Hall of Fame guys. I mean, last year I'm not comparing them, but John Lester just had 200. So yeah, he's first ballot easy.
Nick D.
I'm going to remember him for his brief stint on the Mets. That's really what I'm going to remember him for most. In 2023, that's when I watched him the most, was when he was on the Mets. So I think of him as a part of the revolving door of this was. I think of him as during as like Steve Cohen's phase of wanting to spend exorbitant amounts of money on 40-year-old pitchers.
The first real like chapter of the Steve Cohen era was like Scherzer and Verlander 22-23.
Yeah. That's kind of how I remember him, actually. Remember him most. That's just me as a Met fan.
I mean, do you agree with Mr. Morgeson's logic, DiMart?
Well, he's not more expensive than Bobby Bonilla. I don't know if that counts as a buyout or not, but
wow. Bobby Bonilla Day. You love to see it. Ben, your thoughts on Justin Verlander's career across Major League Baseball?
Insane. Yeah, I mean, you take a look at the teams, and I was saying this in HFTC because we talked about there. I mean, the Tigers and the Astros are kind of the 2 main culprit teams, but then, of course, like you mentioned, Nick, 2023, the Mets, and then the Giants in 2025.
The Giants.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of it, right? 3-time AL Cy Young, 2011, 19, and 22. A 2-time World Series champ. A 10-time All-Star. A 2-time A 2-time All MLB First Team. AL Rookie of the Year. ALCS MVP in 2017. Pitched 3 no-hitters. 2007, 2011, and 2019. Mm-hmm. And most career postseason strikeouts with 244. So, I mean, anything that you look at in terms of no hitters, just dominance, he had everything, pretty much. He had everything. World Series. This was a guy that pretty much just did it all. So he's going to go down as a great, be a Hall of Famer, and wish him well.
Yeah, same. You know, the run in Detroit, the longevity despite having all the injuries, though, of him still being able to pitch at a high level for the last, 18 to 20 plus years, though, has just been incredible. Yeah. I agree with David. First ballot Hall of Famer come class of 2031 when he's on the ballot for the first time. So all the best to Justin in his future endeavors.
Oh, really quick, too, because Nick, you obviously remembered him really quick in terms of my remembrance of Verlander was obviously the runs that we had. The Red Sox obviously had runs against him with the Tigers. That was obviously the favorite ones, of course, that we had against them. So just want to have a quick.
The Ortiz homer in the ALCS that one year. Yep.
That obviously the game Victorino homer and then the monster. That obviously was a memorable one. That was great. That was awesome.
Great career though.
And also the Ortiz one was the same night, one of the great Boston sports nights, where Brady obviously threw the pass to Kenbrell Tompkins around almost the same exact part of the night during the comeback against Drew Brees. So it's 2 back-to-back comebacks on the same night. One of the greatest sports nights of my life.
One of them for sure. Gentlemen, before we put the chairs on top of the tables and count up the register for the night, we should look at the gravity of what we witnessed on the course of this Sunday. But tonight being a reminder of how fast the sporting landscape shifts. We saw the crushing end of the U.S. Men's National Team's World Cup dreams on home soil and a knee injury to Conor McGregor that might permanently close the curtain on his iconic UFC career. We also finally got to the MLB All-Star break as an absolute legend, and Justin Verlander calls it a career, while the business of sports saw corporate valuations explode with a $9.6 billion price tag for the reigning champion Seattle Seahawks, and add in a stalled Kawhi Leonard trade investigation, and it's clear that the sports world never stops moving. But when the glasses are empty and the neon signs hum in the dark, what's left is the connection, the fact that we'll all wake up tomorrow and still care deeply about these stories. No matter how messy the business might get, you've always got a seat right here, folks, at our counter. A huge thanks to Nick DiMartino, alongside David Waitman and Ben Cruz for anchoring the panel. And thanks to everyone in the chat box and the 210 people who joined us tonight. So please keep the conversation going, rolling here on the YouTube channel as we have more programs coming up throughout the course of the week. Please, though, stay humble in victory and resilient in defeat. And remember that the scoreboards might go dark and the bar stools are inverted, but the lights in this lounge never truly fade out as they usually do here on Sundays. With that, though, folks, until next week when we're back with you folks here back at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, the lounge is officially closed until next week. We thank you all again for joining us here tonight on ETB. We'll see you back here again for Nick DiMartino, David Waitman, and Ben Cruz. I'm Callan McClurg saying good night from the West Coast. Till next Sunday, have a great night and enjoy your week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See you, everybody.